Hello and welcome to Scarves Around the Funnel, the podcast dedicated to Heart of Midlothian Football Club. No game for us at the weekend, but that didn't mean it wasn't a good couple of days for the boys in maroon. Fourth place Motherwell losing their game in hand at Dundee. Then on Sunday, our nearest challengers in the league played out 2 hours of mundane mediocrity in their Scottish Cup quarter-final at Ibrox. Talking all things Hearts with me this evening is, first of all, my regular sidekick, Mr. Scott McIntosh. How did you spend your weekend?
Yeah, the weekend was interesting. I think the most interesting part is we're all going through these mental gymnastics through the various WhatsApp groups that we've got set up with all our fellow Hearts fans and friends and family. I think we're trying to view what the best consequences would be of Rangers winning, of Celtic winning, of Motherwell winning, of Motherwell losing. And I think we're all trying to find a positive in any scenario. And the good thing is, I think there is a positive to pretty much bring out the every result that's happening that's concerning our rivals just now. So yeah, it's been an interesting part of the weekend. I won't talk about the other parts that everyone else is talking about because I think those individuals have had enough airtime already, if I'm being completely honest. So aye, we'll just we'll bypass the unsavoury elements of the weekend.
Indeed. Our special guest this evening is a man who brought the house down at Tynecastle recently, performing the Hearts song before the game against Aberdeen, the first time since 1987 at Walter Kidd's testimonial night at the Edinburgh Playhouse that he'd played it live. Mr. Colin Chisholm, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I am good. Are you still on that wonderful high from about 10 days ago, or have you slowly come back down to terra firma?
Um, I came down about 3 or 4 days afterwards. I disappeared on the Sunday morning at 6:15 at Edinburgh Airport and off to Alicante on my birthday. And I could have flown there without the plane, quite frankly. You know, it was superb. I loved every second of it.
It meant clearly a heck of a lot to you, but what did it mean to your kids, David, Chloe, and your wife as well? What did it mean to the whole family that someone who goes every single home game with your season tickets is suddenly on the pitch and you have your family in attendance?
It meant everything. It meant everything. I mean, Chloe, my daughter, lives in London, excuse me, and she had been up the week prior with my grandson Lucas at his very first Hearts game. I had managed to get myself with Gary Mackay into the Legends Lounge because I was doing some stuff for Big Hearts on that day. So Chloe was in my seat in the stand with Lucas, and that was his very first game, doing the twirly with his scarf that we sold. And it was magical that day, just to see his face and to see that he actually settled in and fair enjoyed it. And
Mhm.
shouting at everybody, why is not everybody singing at the same time? Is all this kind of my son, who was with me on the Saturday against Aberdeen, and thank goodness because I need someone there just to keep me in check when things like that are going, checking with in-ear monitors and all that. Because David was my sound guy, sound
Mhm.
and lights, when I was doing stuff live. So it's always nice to have a reassuring hand. Although Graham and Keith Easton were fabulous. I mean, they were great.
Never mind a reassuring hand. He had a steady hand when he
Yeah.
recorded that video, and that's gone viral. How many times have you watched it back?
I stopped watching it. I think I stopped watching various ones about 5 days after. No, I it's he got a cracker obviously because he
He
was right
did.
on the pitch.
Yeah.
On the pitch, honest to God, Mark, when you're standing there, a football player getting that kind of roar when they hit the net must be just incredible. It's just I kept trying to pinch myself and I was trying to concentrate and singing at the same time because, as you'll know, when you're singing in a stadium where there's four stands, basically, it bounces like hell.
Yeah. Hmm.
You know, so I had the one ear in, and the other ear was just picking up the crowd and trying to keep me in time. But once the crowd started singing, I just kept with them.
You were on the pitch. David was by the side of the pitch. Scott, you were in the stands. How did that differ from a normal match day at Tynecastle when the teams came out?
Yeah, I think it was something a little bit extra special. I think it's one of those situations, you find yourself in a pub and if somebody plays the Hearts song, some people might sing along to it, but as soon as that first person just sort of kicks in and starts it going, you'd be amazed just how easily everyone else kind of falls in line. And I think there was an element of that to it. The fact that Colin's still got a good set of pipes on him helped as well. So yeah, it all worked out really well. I also must admit, I think Colin's now ahead of Callum Ewan off in the queue for a winners' medal if we win the league at the end of the season.
Thought you were going to say a place in the team.
He's had more minutes on the park than Callum's had, unfortunately,
Yeah.
this season. So he's maybe ahead of him and maybe getting close to as you as well. So, but yeah, it was great. And look, I think it's one of those, we might touch upon it later on in the episode, but I think the fact that it was a bit of a novelty helped. Because I know we've even had the discussion ourselves, Mark, about, God, would it maybe be something you'd want to do 4 or 5 games running? And it's an interesting one, but I think the fact that the novelty of it, I think, did help sort of keep the atmosphere intact and sort of helped. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops because we've still got another few home games to go. But it was brilliant. It was a good fixture for it as well. I always feel like outside of the Old Firm and Hibs, Aberdeen's the next one that just has that little bit of spice to it. So I think the fans are always pretty much on board at the start of those types of fixtures anyway. So it was kind of almost a perfect storm, which is just how our season seems to be going just now. It's just everything falling into place. And I kind of felt like that performance just encapsulated that.
It really is a roller coaster ride that right now is providing thrills and spills. Now, we're not going to give away too much right now as to whether Colin will or will not be back at Tynecastle between now and the end of the season. Like any good episode, we'll try and keep some good stuff towards the end. You're listening to Scarves Around the Funnel, sponsored by Forrest, Hepburn and McDonald Signs, who've been offering creative sign and print solutions since the 1950s. Okay, Colin Chisholm, I have no doubt in my mind that it's probably a who's who of names in your mobile phone contacts list from your days with Bilbo Baggins and touring with the Bay City Rollers and the likes. So you've probably got a who's who of names. Gary Mackay is in there, ex-Hearts players, current Hearts players. But when you got a text from Derek McInnes, how did that make you feel?
Well, we were lying on top of the bed, I'll just add, on top of the bed, watching the telly in Alicante. And I turned to my wife, because this thing came through on the phone, and I turned to my wife and went, she says, what's that? I said, a text from Derek McInnes. I said, I'm going to check this out, because I didn't want to suddenly reply to a would-be Derek McInnes if it wasn't Derek. So I hastily got in touch with Scott Wilson and asked, could he verify if I sent the last 2 numbers of a phone, if he could verify if that was Derek McInnes' number, which crack on was the reply from Scott. And he then got back to me with 4 of the last numbers, and it tied in. So then I knew it was from Derek McInnes, and I was blown away. What a lovely thing to do, eh?
It was. What did he say?
Just to actually do that, Actually, before I went on, and I don't know if Derek knew who I was or what was about to happen, because he was just coming off the pitch, having watched some of the warm-up, and I was hanging about, and I was about to do an interview with Graham Easton on the pitch. And Derek was walking towards me, so I just put my hand out to shake hands. But he gave me the best handshake. Again, that sort of gave me a real hand open bang. And it was like, I felt good about that without anything else, and then went on and had the blather with Graham. But no, it was a very, very nice thing to do, and from all the Hearts boys, so I was really chuffed about that. Again, more chuffed.
What did the message from Derek say?
If you give me 2 minutes, you want me to read it out?
If you wouldn't mind. So while you go and do that, unless you've got it there, have you got like a cat? Is it like playing again in a band, you've got everybody to do things for you. Is that how
Well,
it kind of
it's
works when you're
my backstage staff.
backstage?
Now it was what's that?
This should have been
Here we go. You
rehearsed.
ready?
Yes, please.
Hi, Colin. How are you? Question mark. Just wanted to send a quick message to thank you for Saturday on behalf of myself and the players. All these little moments and extra effort from everyone have a big impact. It was the perfect way to start the game. Thanks again for a brilliant job with 3 sets of hand claps. Hopefully we can have you again, Derek McInnes.
Lovely.
Nice.
It is. And Scott, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to send Colin that text. But when you read all the things that Derek has said, Scott, about the Hearts fans and that game, and more so the push now between the last 2 games before the split and then the 2 more after the split, have you noticed a change in Derek McInnes in public? Because in private, and I say in private, when he did the evening with the Hearts Standard, he basically said, "I want this to be for us in the room. I don't want it recorded or anything like that." And his passion was oozing out of him. Are you starting to see him change a little bit in public with the same bravado as he's asking his players to have behind the scenes in the dressing room with regards to how he wants the fans to be and how he wants a match day to be between now and the end of the season?
Not so much. I actually think he's been like this since day one. I think he's been quite bullish. I think he was very he was very forthcoming about the fact that he wanted this job when he eventually got it. He talked quite openly during one of his first sort of Q&A sessions with Hearts fans way back in July and August that, you know, he bumped into Aberdeen chairman Dave Cormack, and he pretty much made it clear to him that, you know, he was there to come chasing after them. So I think he has been quite bullish since day one. I think what I quite like about what he's done there with Colin, and also other bits and pieces that I've seen from him when he does a lot of sort of one-to-one sessions with Hearts TV, is that I feel like he doesn't feel the weight of responsibility in being a focal point for the club that goes beyond the remit of a modern day head coach. It was something that me and Joel touched on last week when we done a Hearts Standard episode on Derek McInnes and whether he was getting enough credit. And we were talking about Graham Jones, and I do believe that although I think Graham Jones is a different personality to Joe Savage and is maybe a bit more on the quieter side of things, I think one of the reasons why he's been able to just get on with his work quietly is because Derek McInnes is more of an old school manager than a sort of modern day head coach. And I think all these little touches to how he communicates and engages with people within the club and outside of the club are a big part of that. So I think that's something he's brought to the table since the start. Obviously, the more confident side of that is maybe growing by the game. And he's starting to believe just as much as the players and the fans do. But I'm not shocked by it. It's something I've been very pleasantly surprised by since the start. He's bought into what the club do, not only on the park but off it. And so far, for the most part, he's managed to meet those expectations.
Well, believe was the buzzword towards the end of 05-06. It was the word on the t-shirts when Hearts secured Champions League qualification against Aberdeen. And one of the things that's been spoken about a lot this season is the unity and the harmony in the Hearts squad. And Colin, before you'd even met Derek McInnes, I believe in December you went up to the Oriam and you took your grandson to try and see if he could see Cammy Devlin. But not only did Lucas get to meet Cammy Devlin, you got more than you bargained for, and you met one or two others that day. What happened?
Yeah. We took a drive out. We had been out at my son and my daughter-in-law for Christmas. So this was on Boxing Day, and Lucas was desperate, hoping he was going to try and get into a football match. We knew it wasn't going to happen for the Hibs game. Excuse me. So I thought, let's go for a wee drive. Didn't say where we were going. And not that he would have known anyway, but we drove into there. Oriam,
Yeah.
Oriam, I keep calling it wrong. In the car park and just walked to where I remembered where the pitches were, because I went up just before it was like during a training session before the cup final, and I was watching Rudy Scatchell and all these guys kicking the ball about a few years back. So anyway, up we walked, and we're walking along, and there was a fire exit door, and down an alleyway there, I saw Craig Halkett cut across. And for some reason, I must apologise to Craig Halkett when I see him, because I'm shouting, Stevie! Steve!
Who did you think it was?
God knows what. I know it's Craig Halkett. For some, I just had this brainstorm. Stevie! Stevie! And he's
Stevie.
like, me, aye, come here. So anyway, he's come out. I says, any chance of a wee picture with a wee man? Aye, not a problem. So first picture was with Craig stroke Stevie Halkett. So Lucas was made up with that. But Craig, as a good old captain would do, says, hang on, the rest of the guys are coming out, they're going to go up to the pitches. He said, so if you hang about and just they'll. Oh, so we moved up a wee bit, and out they came. We got the lot, all at different stages, and they all stopped. They all crowded round. If there was 2 of them, 3 of them, 5 of them, 6 of them, Craig, Gordon, and all the rest of it was in a patch, and we got a solo with Cammy Devlin. Derek McInnes and Kizarigas came out at the same time. Got 2 of these guys. So Derek's maybe wondering, was I stalking him when he first saw me again inside that tunnel? But he didn't know who I was, and I didn't introduce myself. I was wanting to get photographs like every other granddad would do. So it was wonderful. Aye, great. And they were so good with him.
The start of that sounded like an episode of Still Game when Winston goes into the bookie. Stevie. I mean, who the heck did you think? I mean, I'm thinking Kingsley maybe, but who could have been Stevie?
No, and my only way out of this, right, was because there was a Volkswagen, a white Volkswagen parked outside, and Chloe, my daughter, obviously, is Lucas is her son, was saying we might see some of the players if we can find some cars. They might have the cars parked. So there was a Volkswagen parked with SK, blah, 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 on the registration. And I said, maybe that's Stephen Kingsley's. I said to Chloe, this was like 100 yards prior to the incident with Craig. So she says, no, that's just the number plate. It's SK. That's okay. And of course, that must have just threw me. It doesn't take much when you're 73.
Did you ever forget the words when you were on stage, if you were singing She's Gonna Win or whatever, with Bilbo Baggins? Was there ever a stage you're like, shit, I don't know what comes next?
Oh, aye. I mean,
what do? Just make it up?
Yeah, aye. And as long as it's got a sort of vowel sound in it, most times they're not even words. I mean, I actually recorded, and it was a B-side, thank God. And it was a song called Double Trouble that Bilbo had written and recorded. And one of the you're more recliking than me.
What now?
Recliking? Where did that come? But we kept it in because it was a nice read. You're more recliking than me. One of these things, you know. So it just fitted. Recliking. I have. And I've taken to with the Tremolos having an iPad, not so much for lyrics, but for arrangements of these things, because I was doing stuff with Jerry and the Pacemakers before I joined the Tremolos. So I was getting mixed up what songs I was doing and all that sort of stuff. But you get by.
You do. Were you at all concerned in the week leading up to the Aberdeen game, because you hadn't performed it live, the Heart Song, in so many years since '87 and Walter Kidd's testimonial night? You know the words. It's easy, right? Everybody knows the words. But nerves do strange things to people. Was there ever a concern? Were you singing in the shower or in the car that week just to make sure you knew which 2 verses and which words you were going to sing?
100% correct. And what I had done a couple of times, and I was doing, you know, was
you forgot the words.
So I was going into the next verse, and national caps we can always supply, like for word on Baldy Mackay, the ones I'm forgetting them now, and I kept going to that third verse as opposed to the second one, only on a couple of occasions. No, it wasn't so much the lyrics; it was when you're all of a sudden taking the I took the backing the lead vocal off the song. Right, you can now do that. I sent it down to my ex-bandmate, well, still a bandmate, he's in the Tremolos as well, Brian Spence, who took my lead vocal off the Hearts song so that I could now sing it, but left the Glasgow Hearts supporters branch. There were some of their vocals still on that as well. So once I took my vocal off, now you're only getting bar counts. You know, so you got da ding da ding da ding da 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 da. But so I knew there was 4 of these toots with the jam tarts, and I'm in. So that can be a bit, you know, when the crowd started singing along and there was cheering and all the rest of it, I couldn't hear if I'd heard the first. So now I'm wondering, am I going in after 3 now, or is it 4? But I waited, and it was right. It was after the 4. Are you still awake?
You kept the same lyrics, but you changed the tune, not the tune, tone. You went up where you would normally went down. Is that
just a wee ad lib?
Yeah, is that just an ad lib? Is that something you thought about, how you might just tweak it to make it your own, or what was the thinking behind that?
Well, it's not so much to make it more. It was just to lift it. You know, I mean, you tend to do that. You know, it just if you go up, it's always going to give it an extra wee. Because I think performance can score, and it was that one. Although not as quite as high as that.
I got a message on social media from Ed. He's like, "Can you please ask Colin about the addition of the hooah at the some say Rangers and Celtic, or Celtic and Rangers are grand verse?" What's the story behind that?
Again, that was just an ad lib in the studio when I recorded it. Something the Celtic and Rangers are going, hooah! It was that. It was more of a ha type of thing. Whereas on Saturday, I just did a ha, so it would cut a bit more. But no, that was just an ad lib, Mark. Nothing. No great big story about it. It's just things that singuists do occasionally.
Scotty, you're a bit younger than the both of us. Back in the day in '86, there were, I'm trying to think, were there like 3,000 copies of that actual Hearts song in '86 that were released? Do you have one, or do you know of one that's still doing the rounds in a decent condition, Scott?
I know a couple of people that do have it. I myself do not have it. As far as I'm aware, my dad doesn't have a copy. So my first, I mean, I was 3-year-old in '86. So
Thanks.
for me, I know, so I've got to take advantage of these things, Colin. I'm normally the one having to say thanks. But yeah, my first sort of introduction to sort of Hearts and music was probably the Jambo Tribe in the early '90s. For anyone who remembers that great cassette tape. So yeah, but obviously, you know, when you grow up and you support the club, you know, Colin's version for '86 is the one that you tend to gravitate to as a youngster anyway. Sort of more so just because it'd be a bit more of an updated version of it. I was wondering though, Colin, were you sort of invited to come back and maybe do a version of the song after one of the cup finals or that? Because I remember, what year was it that we got Pilot back to do Magic? Was that 2012 or?
I was outside. It was Davy Payton. I'm very pally with Davy and Kenny Herbert and all these sort of guys, you know. And in fact, they've been in touch if you're looking for a backing band. So that'll be getting arranged at some point, hopefully, if everything goes well. No is an answer to that. I don't know. It's a strange one. Where I sit in the stand, nobody knew, apart from Gary Halliday, who sits diagonally in front of me, knows that I did the Hearts song, and occasionally he turns around and winks and all the rest of it. But no, everybody sings along or doesn't. But you know, whatever happens, and not knowing that it's me that's singing it, you know. And my son, I think, pointed out in an interview he was doing, might have been with Joel actually, saying that when we first recorded it, and David was very young, when we were going to football, maybe 5-6 years after the recording, and he was thinking, why are you not standing there saying something, Dad? You know, when we were coming in, he says, do you know? I said, no, it's just playing, that's fine, you know. It's never been one that I'd stand and go, you know, I'm not a fridge. I call them fridge door merchants. I'm not like that really, where you open the fridge and you start singing. No, I've always been so delighted to have done it, to have asked to do it, have recorded it. As I said at the time, it was an emotional day for me just walking on the pitch. So much so that I took my dad's Rosebery Suite, or the Ace of Hearts club that used to be outside Hearts, because he was a member there. And I took his membership card, which I've kept, and I had that on the pitch with me. So that was in my chest pocket. So my dad was there with me. So that meant a lot to me as well. So that means more to me than people knowing that who I am in the ground, although they're going to know now.
Well, that's the thing. It's funny. It's one of those things. Now that it's happened, you always think it seems so obvious. Why is it taking so long for it to happen? I think it's just one of those incidents
worth waiting for.
Number 1100, I think your dad's membership card was,
yes,
according to the interview. It's just it's a lovely touch. Just to know that the whole generation of family, whether they were able to be there, whether they weren't, whether they were in the stadium or they weren't, whether they're still with us or whether they aren't. How far back can you go in your family? Your dad was obviously a massive Hearts fan. Does it go back a long time before that, or have you managed to trace the kind of Hearts family tree in your family?
Well, certainly my dad and obviously his dad. So my grandfather, who had died before I think I was born, but certainly uncles and aunts, my uncle Donald, my cousins, Auntie Nan, all these, Jim, the Proudfoot family, all these people, and all my cousins are all Hearts supporters. There's one that's not, and that's a cousin that we still speak to. He's only got one redeeming feature. He's very funny, and that's my cousin Derek, but he's a Hibs supporter. But there we go. But everyone else, all the Hearts, all the Hearts, all my family are all Hearts. Yeah.
Who are the Chunky Chicken champions, and how on earth did that come around?
Well, I'm delighted you asked that.
You were waiting. What are we? We're like half an hour in. You thought it was coming earlier than that. So I waited.
Champions. It was. We were coming out the studio. We were just about finished, and Brian Young, who owns Savage Studio, said, "Colin, just before you go, can you put an ident on?" I said, "For what?" I didn't know that Marshalls had anything to do, but there was some kind of sponsorship going on. I said, "Right, what is it? What do you want me to sing?" "Anything." I said, "Well, Marshalls, Chunky Chicken." "That's perfect." "Okay, put a harmony in it." "Marshalls, Chunky Chicken, champion." "Marshalls, Chunky Chicken." And then, basically that just got plugged together and off it went. It's a nightmare, eh?
Not my nightmare.
Oh, God. Even on the B-side was just, I don't know, it was so fast. And we just had to go, we were just running out of time, and it was like, it's not one of my finest moments as a vocalist as the B-side of the Heart song. But it was all good fun at the time.
Who came up with the squad, naming the squad and going through them one by one?
It was actually McPherson that was doing it, obviously. It was Brian, I think, got in touch. Okay. Yeah, because there would obviously be Archie McPherson. There'd be a lot of things that would get pre-recorded, sometimes in Savard or whatever, and Archie McPherson would do voiceovers for Radio Clyde and things like that. Sometimes in-house, or maybe sometimes in Savard. I'm not sure. But I think it would be Brian Young would come up with the idea, let's have that. Because there were some commentaries as well which were put on. Yeah. They weren't the real bona fide commentaries that were done at the time, but they were put on later or dubbed on.
When you are redoing a song or coming up with your own version of a song, the Hector Nickel is a classic. I mean, Hector Nickel was a double A side. One side was the Heart song, the other side was Glory, Glory to the other two. And I'm not saying that. I don't want that clipped off. And it was the Hibs song was on the other side. So you don't want to be, I mean, that was old school. It's the only thing that was missing with the pipes and drums. So how much do you want to kind of keep true to that, but give it along with the the boys and girls from the Glasgow Hearts Supporters Club in Bryan. How much do you want to give it your own kind of updated version without losing too much of the original?
The hard one, really, because of the sort of waltz timing as the all way up and gone for Hector's one. When I eventually arrived at the studios, having been told that it was happening, I got through there in about 10 minutes, and the track was already done as far as the backing was concerned, and it was that old-fashioned sort of shuffle beat. Well, old-fashioned now, but at the time, it was loads of songs of that ilk were coming out, and I think Brian was trying to capture that. You know, there was all the sort of almost like bubblegum type beat type of thing that was going on with these things, you know. And it was only when I started singing it that I was able to just give it a wee bit boomph, if you like, rather than just sing it nicely, if you like, if you get my drift, you know.
Yeah.
Just to get a wee bit rocky on it, you know.
We've spoken about Scott, about the atmosphere and the build up to a game. You and I and a few others joined together to do that podcast prior to the St Mirren game. And I know Graham, the matchday announcer and the DJ at Tynecastle, he is hamstrung by certain things that he still has to play and facilitate. But in an
Yeah,
ideal
trust me,
world,
Graham doesn't want to have to play Chris Sutton's
nope,
voice before that's
exactly,
coming. It's very
exactly.
much contractual. I don't think that's a preference of Graham's to have Chris Sutton's dulcet tones coming out before a Hearts game. So, aye, we do have to cut him some slack for that.
Oh, 100%, 100 in his defense. But if you were in charge and there were no contractual obligations, would you, and this is a little bit awkward with Colin sitting here in case you come up with the wrong answer, would you have Colin's version, Hector's version, or both versions before a game?
I think Colin's version works better pre-game. I think Hector's version works better post-game. I think that's the way I've always seen it in terms of the memories that I have. If I think back to 2014 and when we beat Hibs 2-0 to avoid them sending us down, at least put that off temporarily. It was Hector's version that got played at the end that day, and I think it's more fitting towards the end of a game. I feel like in terms of the tempo that you want your football games to start at, you probably want something with a bit more energy. So obviously Colin's version gives you that, whereas with Hector's, you take your time with that version. And I think at the end of a match, when everything's all done and the fans are just sort of slowly trying to get down the steps and out the stands, I just think it works a lot better to go along with that. So that's what I've always identified with is Collins at the start and then Hector's at the end, and I would never see any reason to change it. That always works well for me.
Before we get the key answer to the question that we want to know, how many times, if at all, will you be performing the Hearts song between now and the end of the season? I just want to set up how all this came to be, the part that Gary Mackay and Scott Wilson had, but also the part that one of the things that Big Hearts do that I absolutely love. Sadly, my mother-in-law has dementia. She's not a big football fan, but it's a disease that's kind of close to our family's heart. And the Maroon Memories group that Big Hearts organise, and I know you've spent a bit of time with them, with a friend of yours as well. So, how important is that Maroon Memories group for what Big Hearts do and for those suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia? And what part and how did it lead to Gary and subsequently Scott persuading you to end up on the field prior to the Aberdeen game?
Well, as you said there, I've been going to the Hearts Memory Group now probably kicking on for 4 years with a good pal of mine who had early onset. Now, sadly, I've not been since round about July of last year, basically because I went into heavy rehearsals for a musical that we were doing at the Edinburgh Festival. And since then, just things have caught up a bit. I'm possibly going to be going in tomorrow because it's every Tuesday. So I think it is a real eye-opener when you go to the Hearts group and watch, because music is, you'll probably know, is a thing that people with dementia cling on to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they might not remember where they are, who they are, but you start playing a tune and you're just, even a finger just going, but I mean, they'll join in every time. And that is quite moving, actually, when you see that. And you and I are in the same boat, actually, because my mother-in-law, very sadly, just lost her battle with dementia about how long now, John?
Past November.
Just a year past November. And you know, we know, and you know what it means when the whole family go through it. It's not just the person that's got it. But the Hearts Memories group and everything that Big Hearts do in the community is fabulous. But the Hearts Memories Connect was what I was not involved with, but I mean, I was going along. There's Graham, who does the quizzes and things like that in there. Gary Locke has gone in there a lot. He's there a lot. Gary Mackay now is doing a big part with the Memories Clinic and Big Hearts in general. I think it can only be hailed, really, as such a big thing and it is so good that people can go on a regular basis, because regularity is another thing that's very important to people with dementia. You know, and they get well looked after. They get a pie, they get their cup of tea. It's a good pie as well, steak pie. The guys that run it are stars. They really are. And Gary had been speaking to me a few months back because I had done a Christmas sort of cabaret thing for them before in one of the suites in Tynecastle. Just a half-hour spot, but it was great. It was good fun. So Gary was asking me if I would be up for helping out again this Christmas. So I've agreed to do that. But I think this time it's going to be at a hotel on the west side of Edinburgh, at Dalmahoy. So that's going to be that. So I think they're joining 2 or 3 of the groups together for that, for a big Christmas lunch and bit cabaret and things like that. So that'll be good fun. So Gary was speaking to me about that and said, I'd like to get you more involved with it. He says, I know you were involved with the Hearts Memories thing, and I know you were doing this, that, and the next thing. I'd quite like to get you maybe more involved on Big Hearts Day. What would be the possibility of maybe getting you to come along and on the pitch? But it was a bit too quick. We couldn't quite get it together. So I was with Gary on that day in the Legends Lounge and standing with Colin Cameron and things like that, blethering away with him, which was good fun. And it was then that Scott Wilson came up and we decided like a couple of days prior to that maybe just an interview on the Falkirk game on about Hearts Memories stuff, and then on the pitch the following Saturday with Aberdeen, and that's how that basically came about. But Gary Mackay was a big part in that.
Brilliant. Just the involvement as well, because there's so much more to Hearts than just a match day. There's so much more than you just performing when we normally just hear you on the tannoy played before the game. But everything that goes in, whether it's the youth development, whether it's the Orium, whether it's Big Hearts Day, and the work that everybody involved in that, it's brilliant. And we really are, as a club, in a really good place right now. And I think personally we all deserve it, given some of the shit that we have been through as fans. It doesn't even matter what age you are, because even if you're younger, you'll remember the relegations of recent years. If you're older, you'll remember playing in the kind of late 70s in the second tier. So we've all kind of been through it as Hearts fans, promised a lot, and then it's the hope that kills you. This season might be different, and it's great being a Hearts fan right now, in the hope that whatever happens between now and the end of the season, it's going to be quite the ending. Before we look ahead to the Kilmarnock game, and before we get Colin to confirm or give us an idea about his involvement between now and the end of the season, when Colin and I were speaking about this off air, Scott, it was just before you had joined the Zoom call. So I don't think you know the answer to this. So in an ideal world for you, How many times do you think, in the 4 games that we have, because you mentioned this earlier, but not maybe overdoing it, how many times would you like Colin to perform on the pitch between now and the end of the season before Colin tells us how many times he hopes to?
Such a difficult one. So our next home game would be what? It'd be Dundee, wouldn't it? So I still think that's still too close. It's too fresh in the memory, and you don't want to dilute how special
Yeah.
it was just a couple of weeks ago as well. So I think for me, it would definitely be post split. So you would probably leave it for the Dundee and the Motherwell games. Chances are we're only going to have 2 home games coming after the split. You've got Rangers and you've probably got Falkirk. To some extent, the Rangers game takes care of itself in terms of the atmosphere and the needle between the two clubs. I'd probably be looking at the Falkirk game, but I suppose, look, the hope would be that potentially, if Colin was to do it again, it would possibly actually be part of a almost a guard of honour. Because I mean, look, this is the hope, isn't it? I'm not saying it's going to work out this way, but if we were to win the league, it'd be wonderful for one of the 2 home games to actually be the time where we get to do a guard of honour with the opposition and actually, parade the trophy in front of the fans. So yeah, that would probably be my ideal scenario, but I know it doesn't work out as easily as that. But I'd probably leave it to the post-split matches. That would probably be the next time I'd be looking at it. Just to kind of almost be a refresher of what happened a couple of weeks ago. I think the Dundee and the Motherwell games will take care of themselves.
Okay, are we going quality over quantity then, Mr. Chisholm?
Well, I can now reveal. No, we've been in discussion, myself and Scotty Wilson and Misha from Hearts. The actual game has not yet been decided, but it will be post-split because I agree with Scott, and I did say that to Scott Wilson as well, and he agreed, and Hearts agreed because he had asked about that. Would I do it again? Of course I would do it. Emphatically, yes, I would do it. But I was of the same opinion as you guys. I think that you don't want to overkill, and it was magical. I'd love to do it again, and hopefully the next time we do it will be equally as magical because there'll be something that we can all tangibly think we're just about there or are. And that's all I can say because I don't really know. That's the God's honest truth. I don't know. I know it won't be before the split. Which game after the split is still to be discussed.
Yeah, and I totally get that. And I think in this instance, less is more. And as Scott quite rightly said, whichever game it is, but if it's the Falkirk game, if that is our other home game apart from the
I can
Rangers
shut my
game.
eyes and see it. It's bad that it's getting to that stage, but I'm properly at that stage. Like if somebody said to me, "What would be the ideal scenario?" We would have a chance to do a proper guard of honour at Tynecastle in one of those home games. Doesn't bother me whether it's Falkirk or Rangers. I think you get the ex-players, some ex-players back to actually do the guard of honour. I don't want it to be opposition players. I think players who have also served the club well and contributed well, and then I'd love it for the club to be able to take the trophy over to the Memorial Garden. I think that would be lovely for all those families that have that connection with that as well. Again, I know this is like a huge bucket list that I'm starting to create here. We've not even won the league yet, but yeah, if I close my eyes, I can just about see all those things happening. And obviously, Colin belting out the song would just be a huge part of that. That would just be wonderful. But I appreciate knowing Hearts the way we know. It's not going to be that simple. It isn't going to be that simple. But yeah, in an ideal world, that's how it would work out.
I love that we're even going there.
Sorry, Mark.
I mean, I love we're even talking about this, and we would have been so shit scared in recent seasons where we were doing something in the league to even mention the possibilities of, oh, we might have a chance of contending or competing to maybe challenge. It'd be ifs, buts, and maybes. But now we've got Scott manifesting the title celebrations and where the route of the bus is. along Gorgie Road, what songs Colin's going to be performing and at what time he'll be on stage when we do that. I love that. And it's got to be that mentality now. We're too far along to kind of say, oh, well, maybe we might have a wee chance here. We all have to kind of start singing from the same song sheet, pun very much intended, because you've got more experience of going to games than either of us, Colin. It's been too long where the silver medal, the second prize is kind of the aim. We have a chance now, 5 points clear with 9 games to go, of doing something that your father would have seen us do back in 1960. You were just what, 7 years old
Well,
back then.
1953, I was 7 years old, I'd be.
Yeah. So this is something that we need to grasp rather than this might happen. This is something, right? Let's just manifest it. What are we doing for the title party? And I know we kind of do it in a Hearts podcast group. You don't shout from the rooftops. You don't post that AI generated Scottish Premiership Championship trophy with maroon ribbons. We're not there yet, but we have to believe, going back to that word again, don't we?
Yeah. And with every game that goes by, that belief becomes stronger, obviously. I mean, I thought on Saturday, that was one of the most complete Hearts performances I've watched this season. I know there wasn't a lot of goals, but there was a confidence, there was a steeliness about the team on Saturday. And every one of them played well. Every one of them played well, you know. And I think now we're also seeing even more evolution of the players coming through. The Jamestown guys are getting more and more confident. They're getting fitting in better. The whole setup is just in a really good place just now. Great management, great boardrooms, great players, great support. Everything's there. It's just ready for that we get there, you know. Hopefully.
You're listening to Scarves Around the Funnel, sponsored by Forrest Hepburn and McDonald Signs, who've been offering creative sign and print solutions since the 1950s. Okay, we end today looking ahead to Kilmarnock. We've had our say on the Aberdeen game and how it was probably one of the best experiences of the season. Now, we have to ask the question, Scott. We hope that the 2-week break will be a help. It's not going to be a hindrance in any way as far as a lack of freshness is concerned, is it?
No, not at all. Should be fine. Should be something that's allowed. I think there's a couple of players that were starting to pick up little knocks towards the end of the Aberdeen game. I think Claudio Braga looked like he was carrying just a little bit of a knock, which if he was being asked to come back a week later might have been a bit of an ask. So I think giving some of these guys that have been putting in the minutes recently a bit more sort of time in between games isn't a bad thing. It also allows us the chance to get, I think, out of the players that are injured just now, Ocean McAtee looks like the most likely to come back in the squad for this game. And maybe the likes of Cammy and that'll be back in by the time of the sort of Dundee and Motherwell fixtures. So just gives us another couple of options. But we have to be confident going into this. Kilmarnock, in some degree, their performances at home have taken somewhat of an upswing since McCann and Billy Dodds have come in. But even in that time, they're still conceding a lot of goals. So although they got a win against St Mirren, they still shipped 3 goals at home, shipped 3 goals at home to Celtic, even although they played well predominantly over the piece of that match. And one of the primary driving factors behind their recent good performances was Tyrese John-Jules, who's now injured. So I know, you know, you always have to give the opposition respect, but I feel like, and Colin's touched on this, I thought it was a real complete performance against Aberdeen. It was 11 players who know their role, they know what they're doing. And again, this is something that gets missed out on when people talk about this final stretch to the title. I think Hearts, out of the 3 competing teams just now at the top end of the league, are the ones that have the most cohesion within their squad. I think everyone knows their job. Everyone knows what their remit is. We can go man for man. We can really push and suffocate the opposition in a way that I don't think Rangers or Celtic can. They clearly still have individual talent that can win them games. But I think as a team collective, we are the outstanding team out those three moving into these last 9 games. So I think as long as that remains and Derek McInnes keeps that focus going, I don't see any reason why we can't go to Kilmarnock and comfortably come away with 3 points.
Colin, the last 2 weekends that we have played, we've won by 1-0, and then we've had Super Sundays as well because results have gone our way. This is going to be slightly different. We play before Rangers, who go to St Mirren on the Sunday lunchtime, but we play after Celtic, who play at 3 p.m. in a very tough one against Motherwell. Scott has already said he has looked ahead and looked in his crystal ball and decided what's happening at the end of the season. For you, what's happening this weekend as far as Hearts at Killie is concerned and Celtic in that tough one at home to Motherwell and Rangers having to bounce back from that cup exit against Celtic when they go to St Mirren? What kind of weekend do you think we're going to have?
Well, Rugby Park is not my favourite as far as the pitch is concerned. I'm always a wee bit worried about any of the Hearts teams going there. I don't like the surface, but that's me. The way Hearts are playing and the way Kilmarnock are playing, I'm fairly confident we'll get a result there. I think that Celtic Motherwell, is it Celtic Motherwell? Yes. Celtic Motherwell. I think Motherwell weren't at their best against Dundee. I was flipping between that and the rugby with Scotland and France, and I managed to see some of the stuff that was going on with Motherwell. I think Motherwell will get a draw with Celtic. I think that could end up a draw. I think Rangers will possibly beat St Mirren. I thought Rangers played well against Celtic. I thought their left back, Fernandes.
The left back was the Belgian kid, Scott, wasn't it? For Rangers?
So they've got Romans at left back, but then Fernandes plays sort of lefty centre, so he
Left
plays
centre back, yeah.
as sort of left-sided centre half. Yeah,
I thought he was exceptional, and I'd be wary of him in set pieces. And I think Rangers probably will beat St Mirren because they've been on a bit of a plummet the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Scottish Cup semi-finalists now, though, so they've got something that Rangers don't have, so they've got to take every positive.
They wouldn't be protecting themselves. I mean, mind you, that they're in a relegation fight, so they can't afford to protect anything. There were always a bogey for Hearts, I know that, but I think Rangers might get the 3 points there, but I'm fairly certain that Celtic won't, and I hope Hearts do.
Which would be great from our perspective. Best case scenario for Hearts would be an 8-point lead going into the last of 3 fixtures before the split. Obviously, worst case scenario would be a 2-point split. So I want to go back to the deal or no deal banker who appeared on our podcast earlier this season with an offer for Scott McIntosh. I will offer you right now the chance to go into the split as is. So a 5-point lead with 6 points separating first and third. Would you take that or would you decline that offer, Scott?
I think before I give you the answer, I'm just going to say you are the worst banker ever with this because everything you offer me, son, I always reject it. No, I'm not taking that. I'm sorry. I think there's an opportunity to extend this gap. I am pretty confident Celtic don't win on Saturday. I think the loss of Callum McGregor, even if it's going to be for a few weeks, I think that's going to be a big one for them. There's just, I don't think Celtic have had much of a pattern of play even when Callum's been in the team. But now they've got no pattern of play and no focal point to take the ball off the centre halves. So yeah, I think they'll really struggle against Motherwell, who are more than adept at keeping the ball for fun, especially on a big park like that. I can see Motherwell stretching the game really well as well with their wide options. So I think Celtic at best will get a draw. I'm kind of feeling the same as Colin with regards to Rangers. I think Rangers, the way that they're set up under Danny Rule, I think they're slightly set up to be able to handle direct teams like St Mirren. And I think that game will come down to set plays, I think, more than anything. So it really surprised me if Rangers maybe just nick that one. But I think there's a good opportunity for us to go into the split 8 or 9 points ahead. And I think if that happens, then, we've got one hand on that trophy. But given our fixtures, and look, that's not to say they're all gimmies. Dundee will represent a challenge. They've been on good form.
All teams will
Livingston,
provide some, because they've all got
yeah,
something
exactly.
to play for.
They'll all come with their quirks and their challenges, but I
Mhm.
think we've shown over that Falkirk and Aberdeen game that there seems to be a good focus amongst our players just now. So I'd be confident we can get, 10 to 12 points over those 4 games. And I'm also just as confident that Rangers and Celtic won't get 10 to 12 points over the same fixtures. I think Rangers have still got to play Falkirk coming up soon.
Yeah, wait.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I wouldn't just take that 5 points just now. I genuinely believe this next groupy fixtures, 3-4 games, is where we can almost get one hand on the trophy. And if we went in there with 8 or 9 point gap, I think that would probably be enough for us.
I love the positivity today from Scott McIntosh. This banker is bruised and battered, having been denied again by Mr. McIntosh. So I'm hawking my wares around, and next up is Mr. Colin Chisholm, and I'm offering you the same. 5 point lead for Hearts with 5 games to go. Basically, that'll be the lead come the split. Are you interested in the deal or no deal banker on loan with his offer?
Well, thank you, Mr. Banker. Not the
Bit
best
more
offer
respectful than McIntosh, I have to say.
I'm just watching it from the telly when it's on. Well, the deal or no deal. They always say, thank you very much, no deal. I've got to agree with Scott, actually. Much as I would accept the 5, I would be looking for a lot more. I think we could be looking at a minimum 10 points from what we've got to play, which would then give us 73 points going into the split.
And the most that Celtic could get would be 70.
Yeah.
And as Scott said, are they going to run the table between now and the split?
Well, obviously, we'd now be 8 points clear if that was the case, wouldn't we? So, aye. No, I fancy our chances, Mark. I'm not going to muck about with that. I do, and I think I'll go with Scott. I'll knock that deal back, Mr. Banker. Thank you very much.
It's okay. I'm knocking it back as well. I just think it's it's not me. He's on loan from deal or no deal. I'm just telling you what he's off. You never see who the banker is. This is one. I just think we're in a position now whereby McInnes isn't going to be taking a 5 point lead into the split if you offered him it now.
No.
We all know what Hearts are like post-split. I think we need as much of a gap, a cushion as possible.
Scott, now hold on. Let's not go back to the way we used to be. You've been positive up until that was old Hearts. That was Hearts of then, previous seasons and going into the split. This is all about because if we don't have positivity from the stands and on the message boards or whatever, everything's going to feed through to the players. They say they don't read newspapers, watch TV, go on the internet or whatever. They're all on Instagram. They all have a feel how we feel. And if we have that positivity as well, if we can't be positive now, when the fuck can we be positive? With a 5 point lead. Let's wrap up with what we would do from the team selection perspective. Scott, let's start with you for the trip to Kilmarnock. Against Aberdeen, here was the starting lineup. Swallow in goal, Steinvender, Halkett, McCart and Milne, Leonard, Magnuson, Spittle, Kizaridis, Braga and Kabori. Are you making any changes to that lineup, assuming all of those 11 are available and some who have been injured might be coming back? What are you doing?
There's always that temptation because you might see a little bit more of the ball. Do you bring an Altena at right back, knowing that there's going to be the possibility of maybe being a little bit more camped in their half? That's probably the only area where I would maybe consider changing it, but even then, I wouldn't be unhappy to see Steinvender staying in or even McAtee coming back in. at right back. So that's probably about it. I don't really think there's anything else I would consider changing. Obviously, the games after that, it's going to be interesting if the likes of Cammy and Warren
Yeah,
Shanklin and that come
but
back in for
that's next
contention. But
week's episode.
I think for just now, probably right back potentially, but it just depends on because having Steinbender in there, it does give Harry Milne that license to push on. And if we kept Kizarides over on the right hand side like we did against Aberdeen, then it does allow us to sort of give Milne that sort of freedom and have a proper attacking outlet in front of Steinbender anyway. So yeah, it wouldn't bother me to see that 11 go out there again.
Colin, I was very impressed by Pierre-Landry Cabori against Aberdeen. He just played the role that he was meant to play, that Derek McInnes wanted him to play. He was a nuisance. He was a handful. He teamed up well with
Mhm.
Claudio Braga. Is this simply a case of if it ain't broke, doesn't need fixed?
Well, Cabori's had a couple of games like that where
Dundee United at Tannadice was the
yes,
other one,
aye,
wasn't
aye, exactly, aye. And I've got a lot of time for Cabori. He is a wrecking ball, when he's in amongst that lot, I would stick with that. I would go with the two up front as he had it because I like Braga being central. I agree with Scott on the right hand side because my thoughts were Altena as well. But I thought Steinbrenner had a great game
he?
against
He did.
Aberdeen.
He was excellent.
But they all did. We were talking about this earlier on, I'd like to see. There's also a possibility of, I don't know. There's sometimes like it's a big wide pitch, Rugby Park.
Yeah, it is.
Big
Always
pitch.
has been.
So could we go with two wingers? With Kazirigas reverting back to the left hand side and
Chesnikov coming in?
Chesnikov on the right.
Possibly.
Is another wee thought because I'm getting more and more as these guys, as I was saying earlier on, as they get more match fit. I think Chesnikov will be a player. Cabori is now starting to come good, I think. I don't know. I just think a wee bit more width on that pitch might help as well. But I would be. I'm probably waffling now because I'd be quite happy to see the pitch, the team that I saw on Saturday against Aberdeen last Saturday.
Would you want Stevie to start?
Stop it. Stevie's got to always start.
Has to, doesn't he? Stevie. Stevie.
Stevie. Oh, God, I'll never that. My daughter was with me. What the fuck are you saying?
I can't believe you admitted that. I thought it was going to be hard to get you to sing. We ain't going to do that. But for you to admit that now, you're going to have people coming up to the pub. I'm going to get David and Chloe to get Lucas to start calling Grandad Stevie. And see that.
Don't forget, I've got more, especially from Chloe from afar in London. Some of the texts I get are to Stevie. It's just she will never let me live that down. She says, "I can't believe you did that." I can do that with names. It's an age thing, I think.
We've all been called worse. We need a prediction. Now, Colin, let's start with you. What we always do on Scarves Around the Funnel is we ask for a score prediction, and if we have Hearts goal scorers, we look for one of those. So what will be your score prediction for Kilmarnock against Hearts and a Hearts scorer, please?
Kilmarnock 0, Hearts 2, Braga and Halkett.
Stevie among the goals. Yes.
Go with Stevie Halkett.
Love it. Scott, what you got for us?
Yeah, I'd agree with the 2-0 scoreline. I think it'll be 2-0, and I'm going to like to see Blair Spittle get a goal. So let's go with Blair Spittle.
I don't see why we deviate from recent results. 1-0 Falkirk, 1-0 against Aberdeen.
I just want it to be a bit more comfortable. That's why I'm saying 2-0.
We all do, but look, if we have to go through the motions,
1-0s are killing me.
I know.
They're no good.
I'm going 1-0. I'm going 1-0 in Braga, and fingers crossed that's right. Colin, thank you so much for spending time with us, for giving Joel that wonderful interview on Hearts Standard, and most importantly for giving us a brilliant time, whether we were there or whether we watched David's video of your performance of the Heart song. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure, and thank you for your very kind words in the build-up in your last podcast, because I was listening to it. No, it was very touching and very moving, and thank you very much, guys. I've enjoyed the last hour immensely. Yourself and Scott. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you on the field again at Tynecastle at some point between now and the end of the season after the splits. Thank you to Scott McIntosh as well, and thank you to you for watching or listening. A reminder that our YouTube channel is available. Like and subscribe if you haven't already done so yet. And enjoy the game at Kilmarnock this weekend. I'll be watching in a Dublin pub, having been to Ireland against Scotland this weekend. So a little Scotland and Hearts double would be perfect. Thanks to Colin. Thanks to Scott. Bye for now.